On Friday, Trump told reporters Iran was finished. Navy gone, Air Force gone, air defenses flattened. 72 hours later, Monday morning, he asked Iran for 5 days of peace. He called it productive conversations. Iran's parliament speaker responded within the hour. He said, "There was no dialogue with the United States." Read that again. "The country dropping the bombs is asking for a timeout. The country absorbing the bombs is the one saying no." And what happened between Friday and Monday tells you everything about where this war actually stands. This video will walk you through it, piece by piece. The original plan was simple: 4 to 7 days of overwhelming airstrikes. Destroy Iran's air force, navy, radar, and missile sites. Force a surrender, or at least force them to the table. We're now on day 24. Here is what the last 4 days looked like inside the White House. Friday evening, Trump posted on Truth Social that America was considering winding down operations. Saturday morning, he reversed completely. He gave Iran a 48-hour ultimatum. Reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or we destroy your power plants. Sunday night, reports said he sent envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for secret back-channel talks. Monday morning, the deadline expired. He did not strike. Instead, he announced a 5-day pause and called it diplomacy. The Iranian parliament speaker, the exact person Trump reportedly contacted, denied any conversation took place. He called it an American attempt to escape a quagmire. 1 hour, Trump declares victory. The next, he threatens total destruction. Then he offers a ceasefire. Then he claims negotiations. The other side says never happened. That is not strategy. That is a man searching for an exit that does not exist. And to understand why the exit disappeared, you have to understand what Iran actually did to America's military machine. On March 19th, a U.S. Air Force F-35A made an emergency landing at a regional base. The pilot had shrapnel wounds. CENTCOM confirmed the landing but refused to say what caused it. That same day, Iran's Revolutionary Guard released footage showing what they described as a direct hit. 2 sources confirmed to American media the jet was struck by an Iranian weapon. If unverified, this is the first time in history an F-35 has taken enemy fire. The entire trillion-dollar program is built on one word: stealth. Radar cannot see it. That is the promise. Iran did not use radar. They used passive infrared tracking. Instead of bouncing signals off the jet, they tracked the heat coming off its engine. The system reportedly used is called the Majid, a domestically built infrared guided missile platform. Here is why this matters beyond one airplane. Japan flies F-35s. South Korea, Australia, the UK, half of NATO. They all bought this jet or have orders pending. If a country under sanctions for 40 years can track and hit it using heat sensors, the strategic argument for the entire program changes overnight. And the thermal data Iran captured from that engagement is now worth more to China and Russia than a decade of espionage. One hit. Global consequences. But the F-35 was not the biggest loss. The biggest loss was America's eyes. On opening day, February 28th, Iranian forces struck the AN/FPS-132 early warning radar near Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. This is a giant fixed installation. It tracks ballistic missiles from over 5,000 kilometers away. It gives every defense system in the region time to react. Qatar paid $1.1 billion for it. It is the only one deployed outside the United States. Pentagon sources say it will take 5 to 8 years to replace. Iran hit it first because once it went dark, every missile strike that followed became harder to stop. Every warning window got shorter. Then came the THAAD radars. Most people think THAAD is untouchable. It is not. THAAD without its radar is a launcher with no eyes. Only 16 of these radars exist on Earth. Each one costs up to $1 billion. Satellite images confirm Iranian strikes damaged or destroyed THAAD radars in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and at 2 sites in the UAE. The Jordan radar was reportedly killed by Iranian drones costing between $20,000 and $60,000 each. Let that cost ratio sink in. A $60,000 drone destroyed a $1 billion radar system. Total confirmed radar losses across the region, roughly $2.7 billion. Total U.S. equipment losses in the first 14 days, estimated near $4 billion. To plug the gaps, the Pentagon started pulling THAAD and Patriot batteries out of South Korea. That means weakening the shield against North Korea to patch a region where the shield is already broken. Now the Navy. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the most expensive warship ever built at $13 billion, caught fire in its laundry room on March 12th. It took 30 hours to extinguish. 600 sailors lost their beds. 200 were treated for smoke inhalation. The ship had been at sea nearly 10 months straight with no port break. Its plumbing kept failing. Morale had collapsed. The Navy is now investigating whether crew members set the fire deliberately to end their deployment. The Ford sailed to Crete for repairs. It is out of the fight. Meanwhile, satellite imagery showed the USS Abraham Lincoln had pulled back to roughly 1,100 kilometers from Iran's coast. It was previously at 350. The Pentagon called it a controlled reallocation. The military term for what actually happened is retreat. Both carrier strike groups now sit beyond the range of Iran's coastal weapons. China saw that. Russia saw that. Every country with a coastline saw that. 3 F-15E Strike Eagles were also lost on day 2 over Kuwait in what the Pentagon called a friendly fire incident caused by Kuwaiti air defenses. $261 million gone in a single event before the war was 48 hours old. Over a dozen MQ-9 Reaper drones confirmed destroyed. Another $200 million. 13 American service members dead, roughly 200 wounded. Those are Pentagon-confirmed numbers. But none of that is the reason Trump offered the pause. The reason is Hormuz. Iran's most devastating weapon costs nothing to deploy. Since roughly March 4th, Iran has enforced a full closure of the Strait of Hormuz, using radio warnings, attacks on merchant ships, and the collapse of commercial shipping insurance. 20 million barrels of oil flow through that waterway every day. That is 20% of the world's supply. When Iran shut it, the impact was instant. Brent crude crossed $100 by March 8th and later hit $119. Gulf oil production dropped by at least 10 million barrels a day, the largest supply disruption in the history of global energy markets. The IEA released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves, completely unprecedented. Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd suspended all Middle East routes. Over 150 ships sat anchored outside the strait. Fertilizer prices surged from $475 to $680 per metric ton, directly threatening the American Midwest planting season. Goldman Sachs raised the probability of a U.S. recession to 25%. India's prime minister compared the crisis to COVID. The IEA chief said 40 energy facilities across 9 countries had been severely damaged and called this worse than the 1973 and 1979 oil shocks combined. Trump's 48-hour ultimatum on Saturday was about this: reopen the strait or your power plants get destroyed. Iran's response was devastating. If you hit our power grid, critical energy infrastructure across the entire Gulf gets destroyed. Saudi oil terminals, Emirati desalination plants, Bahraini refineries. Every Gulf state that hosted American forces was named as a target. Iran also warned that any strike on its coast would trigger mine laying across every Gulf shipping lane. That was the calculation on Trump's desk Monday morning. Strike Iran and watch oil hit $200 and the global economy collapse. Or announce a pause and call it diplomacy. He chose the pause. This was supposed to be an air war. The fact that ground options are now on the table tells you the air campaign failed to deliver. 5,000 Marines are converging on the Gulf. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit from Okinawa on the USS Tripoli, the 11th from San Diego on the USS Boxer. The 82nd Airborne has canceled exercises amid deployment speculation. Pentagon planners are reportedly considering seizing Kharg Island, Iran's main oil terminal that handles 90% of its crude exports. Kharg sits 26 kilometers off Iran's coast, within range of every remaining Iranian weapon. Ballistic missiles from inland tunnels, rocket artillery, explosive drone boats, shore batteries. One retired rear admiral put it plainly: if we seize Kharg, they turn off the spigot on the other end. A former army officer called it somewhere between a suicide mission and a self-imposed hostage crisis. Trump originally planned to finish this war before a trip to China at the end of March. That trip is now postponed. Iran's foreign minister said it clearly on CBS. We never asked for a ceasefire. We never asked for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes. He also said both times Iran was in diplomatic contact with the U.S., it got bombed. From Tehran's view, American negotiation is a prelude to violence, not an alternative to it. Iran's losses are enormous. Over 1,400 dead, 18,000 wounded. Its supreme leader killed on day 1. Civilian neighborhoods in Tehran hit directly. And yet Iran is the side refusing to talk, still launching missiles, still keeping Hormuz sealed, still firing at bases 4,000 kilometers from its border. Both governments tell their people they are winning. Both narratives contain claims that cannot be verified. Apply the same skepticism to CENTCOM, saying its jets fly freely as you do to Iran, claiming 104 drone kills. The truth sits somewhere between those stories, and what it says is clear. Neither side planned for what is actually happening. The 5-day pause expires soon. What do you think happens next? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want to stay updated. I will see you in the next one.